Hey, what's up you guys? So I wanted to talk about this very controversial topic. So I want to make this video in June because I recently found out the month of June is proclaimed LGBT month. The acronym stands for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgenders. And I want to make the video in June because I didn't know this. I didn't know that they had their own Pride Month. And it was proclaimed by President Obama. He released a statement back in 2011. So I wanted to quickly read this to you guys. Okay, the statement is, I call upon all Americans to observe this month by fighting prejudice and discrimination in our own lives and everywhere it exists. Just recently in May, Vice President Joe Biden, he confirmed that the president supported gay marriage. I kind of feel like it was sort of like a trial balloon, but then a couple statements were released saying that he apologized for kind of calling the president out on throwing the president under the bus, you know, saying that because he probably wasn't ready yet. But you know, it is what it is when it comes to gays and lesbians and the support for gay marriage. Obama has been pretty quiet on the issue. He hasn't really said much about it. So when he came out and said that he supported it, it was a big deal. You know, back in 2008, during the presidential elections here in California, we had this whole Prop 8. It was on gay marriage, you know, and it was a very close race. You know, it didn't pass, but it was very close. It was like 51% to 49%, so it was very close. And then eventually they threw it out because they said it was unconstitutional. So what do I think about gays and lesbians? Honestly, I don't have a problem with them. Do I support gay marriage? You know, I do. I don't see why we shouldn't. You know, if they want to get married, that's their business. I know a lot of people who are like the conservatives and the people who are religious. They have their own reasons why they don't support it. But to look beyond that, I feel that everyone deserves to be happy, or should I say miserable. You know, marriages are a lot of work. It's tough, you know. And I read something a couple years ago, and it kind of did this study on married couples. And it said within the first 5 years of the marriage, it falls apart. So people who get married within the first 5 years, they end up getting divorced. So there's a high divorce rate. But you know, with gays and lesbians, I think it's a little different because they don't marry. They marry for other reasons, you know, because they actually love and care for the person. I'm not saying that people who are straight don't marry for those reasons, but sometimes they have their own hidden agendas to why they do certain things. Gays and lesbians are not treated the same, you know, they don't have the same benefits as straight people do. One of the reasons why I do support it is because I have a couple friends and I have family members that are gay and lesbian. So that's one of the reasons why I do support it. If my son came to me one day and said that he was gay, would I support it? Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with it. You know, I will say as long as he is happy and that person, that guy, the person treats him right, and I won't have a problem with it. It's about equal rights for everybody. Because you know, it sucks that, you know, you're against gay marriage, you're against people who are attracted to the same sex, and that leads to other discrimination and prejudice. You know, age discrimination, we deal with so many other different types, and it just leads to, you know, other things that we shouldn't be even dealing with right now. And I also feel that, you know, just because you're against it, that's fine, but again, you know, it's what they want to do. So, you know, why are you so focused on what everyone else is doing? Why don't you focus on yourself? Worry about what you're doing in your life. Worry about raising your kids, your marriage. You know, stop focusing on what everyone else is doing. Alright? But I do understand both sides, because I know people who are for it and people who are against it, and I've heard both sides of it. Some people say they're against it because, you know, they don't want the kids, like, it has to do with the kids, you know, growing up with just two parents of the same sex. That has to be difficult, you know, because, you know, kids are gonna kids are kids, you know. And then they all say, oh, if you're raised by, you know, gay parents, then you're going to turn gay, the child's going to turn gay, which I disagree with that 100%, because, you know, you don't turn gay. Your sexuality is already determined by when you're born, alright? It's not that you choose to be straight or gay, alright? And, you know, and actually I just read this, and then I read this article tonight about this this teenager. His name was Brandon, I should have wrote it down, Elizares, I believe that was his last name, Brandon Elizares. He was 16, he's from Texas. He committed suicide just recently because he was bullied because of his sexuality. And, you know, people would say really threatening things, like they wanted to kill him and, you know, set him on fire, just some really outrageous things. And he left a note saying, I couldn't make it, and but I love you guys with all my heart. But what happened was, I guess he got a text message from one of his classmates threatening to kill him, and, you know, he committed suicide. And, you know, it's just horrible. And his mom said that he put other people first before himself. In May, I also read another story on this boy. He was 12 years old. His name is Joe Morales. He's from New York. He hung himself in the bathroom because he was getting bullied, and people would make fun of him because of his height and his intelligence, and it had to do with his father, losing his father, and just some really, really awful things. And they tried to transfer him schools, and the bullying still didn't help. And, you know, it's just horrible, you know, that these kids are killing themselves. And then, of course, we all know about Jamie. He was a huge Lady Gaga fan. He killed himself. You know, he's even talked about in the new Nick Cannon song for If I Die Young. Make sure you guys check out that song. Has a really good message behind it. We shouldn't have people killing themselves. Like, this could be prevented, you know. And yeah, I do think the parents and the schools need to be more involved if they aren't already, and talk to their kids about this, because this is crazy. You know, I would feel really bad if I was that person that picked on someone, made fun of someone because of their sexuality or whatever it may have been, and then find out a day later that they killed themselves, they committed suicide. And to know that it was me that caused it, that would be something that I don't know, that's something I would have to live with for the rest of my life, knowing that I hurt someone so badly that they did something like that they killed themselves over it. It's just not worth it, you know. I would have regrets, and it would just be horrible. I remember when I was a kid, you know, when I was a kid, growing up as a kid, I grew up in the 90s, alright? I grew up in the mid-90s. I never used to hear stories about, you know, people committing suicide because of their sexuality and stuff, but we live in a different era, in a different time, you know. When I was growing up, that wasn't even discussed. Like, it wasn't on TV. It just wasn't out in such a way that it is now, you know. And so we've gotten more open-minded as the years have gone by. But, you know, I used to get picked on when I was a kid back growing up in the 90s because the way I looked different from everybody else. And, you know, I could tell you some really crazy stories, and I'm not gonna lie, I have had thoughts about, you know, killing myself. But you know what, I look at it in a way that, you know what, I feel that if I would have done that, I'm taking the easy way out. You know, I feel that that I would have missed out on so much other things, you know. I wouldn't have gotten to do a lot of things that I've gotten to do now if I always feel like, you know, it's always good to make it through whatever situation you're faced with. Make it through it, because then it makes you a stronger person in the end.